I spent months wondering why my wife felt like a stranger. But one night, when she came home
I
smiling,
woke up one morning and it just hit me. Something in my marriage had changed, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. My wife, Elena, had been distant for months. She was always finding excuses to stay late at work or spend weekends away with friends she never seemed to talk about before. The warmth I had known for years was gone, replaced by something cold and sharp. Around me, she barely smiled. But when she looked at her phone, her whole face would light up. Every time I tried to ask her what was wrong, she'd brush me off. "I'm just tired," she'd say, or "work is stressful." The answers never felt true. I kept hoping it was just a phase, that the tension between us would eventually fade. But it only got heavier. One evening she came home dressed differently. It was a bold outfit, something she hadn't worn in years. She said she was going out with coworkers and told me not to wait up. Watching her leave, I had this nagging feeling in my chest, a quiet alarm that wouldn't shut off. Hours passed, midnight came and went. She still wasn't home. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. I just sat there in the living room listening to the clock tick. Each minute felt like an hour, and with every tick, the suspicion I had tried so hard to push away grew stronger. At 2 a.m, the door finally opened. Elena walked in, her face flushed and her eyes bright. She didn't look tired at all. She tossed her purse on the counter and, without even looking at me, said she finally felt alive again, that she'd gotten the attention she deserved. Her words hit me like a physical blow, but she didn't seem to notice or care. She just brushed past me and headed for the bedroom, humming to herself as if it were just another Tuesday night. I stood there, completely speechless, feeling something deep inside me crack. The next day, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, she checked her emails, she talked about errands she needed to run. I watched her, really watched her, and noticed how she carefully avoided my eyes. I tried to ask about the night before, but she just laughed, telling me I was being dramatic. "I just needed some fun," she said. "Something you haven't given me in years." That dismissal hurt more than her absence. It was in that moment I knew I couldn't keep lying to myself. The truth was there, right in front of me, and I had to face it. A few days later, my worst fears were confirmed. I found messages on her tablet, which she'd left open on the coffee table. It was all there. She hadn't just gone out with coworkers. She had been meeting someone else, a secret she'd been keeping for months. I saw plans for trips, dinners, and nights away, all disguised as work obligations. Reading those messages felt like being caught in a storm with nowhere to hide. I scrolled through every word, every lie, and felt the foundation of my life, my trust, just crumble into dust. I tried to confront her calmly. I showed her the tablet. But instead of remorse, she met me with irritation. She accused me of snooping, of overreacting. She said she deserved to have some excitement in her life, something she claimed I never gave her. She insisted that one reckless night didn't mean anything, but her own messages told a completely different story, a story of months of deception. I told her I couldn't live like this, with the lies and the disrespect. She just shrugged, as if my pain was just an inconvenience she had to deal with. That shrug, that casual dismissal of 24 years of marriage, changed something in me permanently. While she was in the shower, I started packing her bags. I moved slowly, deliberately, giving myself time to think clearly. I folded her clothes neatly and placed them in the suitcases. Then I set them by the front door. When she came out of the bathroom, she found me sitting at the kitchen table. She looked confused at first, then angry when she saw the bags. "I know everything," I said quietly. "I read the messages. I know the truth you've been hiding." She started making excuses, blaming her stress, her loneliness, even blaming me. But her words felt hollow. I just listened without interrupting, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "Are you really ending this over one mistake?" she asked, her voice shaking. I had to remind her that it wasn't one mistake. It had been months of lies, of disrespect, of treating me like I didn't matter. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. The distance between us was too wide to cross now. Then she started crying, insisting she still loved me. But the tears felt like too little, too late. I had given everything I had to our marriage. One had been loyal, I had been present, and she had chosen someone else. Her apologies washed over me, but they didn't mean anything anymore. I told her she needed to go, to stay somewhere else for a while. Her face twisted in disbelief, as if the thought that her actions would have real consequences had never even crossed her mind. When she left with her bags, the house felt heavier, but also strangely still. The constant tension was gone. I sat in the quiet for a long time, just letting the reality of it all settle in. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired, sad, and relieved. Relieved to finally stop pretending everything was fine. I realized that the woman I had loved for 24 years wasn't the same woman who had walked out that door. She was a stranger. The days that followed were slow and heavy. I couldn't look at the photos on the walls. I didn't answer calls from mutual friends who didn't know what had happened. I just needed space. I started taking long walks just to clear the fog from my head. I kept reminding myself that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but at least now it could begin. About a week later, I got a call that shook me all over again. It was Elena. Her voice was trembling. She told me she had gone to the doctor after feeling unwell. She had contracted something from her night out, something serious that she couldn't ignore or hide. Her apology this time sounded different. It was filled with fear, not arrogance. She asked if I hated her. And honestly, I didn't. I told her that. I told her I couldn't hate someone I had loved for so long, even after she had broken my heart. After we hung up, I just sat there, trying to process it all. I felt sorry for her, genuinely sorry, but that sympathy didn't change what had happened. It didn't erase the betrayal. I knew I couldn't go back. The trust was gone forever, and the future we had planned together no longer existed. I wished her well, but I also wished for peace in my own life, away from her. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the weight on my chest began to lift. I started cleaning the house, rearranging the furniture, making the space feel like my own again. I reached out to friends, spent time outdoors, and just focused on breathing without the constant knot of anger in my stomach. Sometimes, memories of the good years would pop into my head, and it would hurt. But they also reminded me that for most of our life together, I had lived honestly and loved fully. Eventually, I reached a point where I stopped checking my phone for her messages. I stopped replaying our arguments in my head. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently. I understood that my loyalty couldn't save a marriage when I was the only one holding on. I understood that love can die long before anyone is brave enough to say it out loud. And most importantly, I understood that I deserved to be with someone who valued honesty and treated me with respect. One afternoon, I walked through the house, and for the first time, it felt like home again. It felt like my home. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was peaceful. The rooms no longer felt haunted by her memory. The wounds were still there, but they weren't controlling me. I knew I still had a long road of healing ahead, but for the first time in a very long time, I felt ready to move forward. Quietly, slowly, and on my own terms. Thanks for listening to my story. If you're going through something similar, remember that your feelings are valid and you deserve peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.